To our webinar this afternoon on Diversify Your Board. I'm Jane Ann McKenna. I'm the CEO of Dóchas, which is the Irish Network for Development and Humanitarian Organisations. And we would work closely with the likes of CII, Volunteer Ireland, The Wheel, Board Match, and Carmichael Centre, as well as Charities Regulator for Charities Trustees Week. I'd like just to speak a little bit around why we chose this topic in particular. So as Dóchas, we would really only host one event during Charity Trustees Week and really want to focus on some of the key issues that are relevant for our members, particularly those working in international and development organisations, but also which are relevant for all charities. And it's really upon a reflection by our own members, and I think it's not just exclusive to international organisations, but for all charities who are looking to diversify their board. And a number of years ago, we held a webinar similar to this during Charity Trustees Week, which was focused on very much on recruiting members or directors and trustees from the Global South to your board. And I think now we've seen that actually one of the needs of our own members and indeed of many charities is looking at how we can diversify our boards here at home and ensure that we're engaging with many of the new communities that are living here, working here, and contributing to Irish society as well. And I think that's why, in particular, obviously, diversity can come in many different shapes and forms. And I think for this session, we have particularly focused on what you might deem new Irish, or perhaps people or who have moved over here from other countries, or indeed whose families or parents may have come over to Ireland. And indeed, it's looking at how we can bring in a broader perspective, not only to our charities in general, but also in particular at the highest level, at a board level. I think it's interesting that we're doing this session here today on the day of the inauguration of our new president, Catherine Connolly. And actually, only in the last hour, when she was making her inauguration speech, she said, though we want a republic that is worthy of its name, where everyone is valued and diversity is cherished. And I think really what we're looking at is that it's not just about cherishing diversity, but for us, it's really about embedding diversity into all the different structures and processes as a charity, not only within your recruitment processes or engagement and stakeholder engagement, but in particular also at the highest level, at a trustee level. And that's what we're going to focus on today. I'm delighted to be joined by three speakers. And just before I introduce them, just to mention that we will be recording this session, but we will we'll only be recording the first half, so really the panel, because we want to allow for a bit of a conversation, for questions and answers, for discussion in the second half of the webinar this afternoon. So just to mention that we won't be recording the questions and answers, it's just the panel part at the beginning that we'll be recording. So I'd like to introduce the panel to you now. So I'm joined by three excellent speakers. So firstly, it is Pierre Yimbog. So Pierre is the co-founder and COO of Black and Irish, which aims to foster inclusivity for Black and mixed race Irish community through advocacy, community and education initiatives. He's also the co-founder and CEO of Solo Book and serves on the board of IDEA, which is the Irish Development Education Association. And so he's got a number of strings to his bow, I think, which he'll reflect on in terms of, what he wanted to, the contribution he wanted to make as a board member, in particular to IDEA. We're also joined by Humayun Shazed, and I hope I'm Shirzad, sorry, Humayun. Humayun is a member of the Irish Refugee Advisory Board, which was formed by UNHCR in 2022. So this is a refugee-led group, and the board's aim is to ensure that the voices of refugees are heard in policy decisions that affect them. And Humayun arrived from Afghanistan in 2016 and has significant work in the experience in the humanitarian and community sector as well. And last but not least, we are also joined by Juliet. So Juliet is a development enthusiast and a socioeconomic researcher with over 10 years of working with marginalized communities. So originally from Tanzania, she came to Ireland in 2022 through the Ireland Africa Fellows Programme to pursue a Master's in International Development Practice, and since then has engaged with the Future Leaders Programme with Board Match and currently sits on the board of Voluntary Services International Ireland. So we have a wealth of experience and expertise here, and I'm going to ask each of our panelists to share their perspective on what diversity means to them at a board level, their own pathway and ways that charities can engage more with new communities and networks here in Ireland. So I'd like to hand over to Pierre firstly, if you would like to share some of your thoughts, Pierre. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much, Jane and Dóchas, for having me on this webinar. I guess it's a great opportunity to discuss something obviously very dear to my heart, but I think it's very important more than ever to have these discussions. So really welcome the opportunity to share my thoughts, I guess my journey in some ways to get to the positions you stated there, particularly through Black and Irish boss on the board of IDEA. But before I get to that, I guess my first foray or step into board when I reflected on this, it was actually started all the way back in university and college. In many ways, that for some of the, I guess, people you're looking to interact with, or maybe some of your supporters, or people you want to get involved in your charities and boards, are probably already active and engaged. Very early on before you even think about it. And that usually starts at university or college level. Because like myself, you get involved in societies and students' union. And for myself, obviously, I was more involved in the students' union. And that's how I got my, I guess, interest and passion around advocacy by being senior union president two times, in particular in DIT and TW Students' Union. But nonetheless, obviously being involved in society as you got involved in charity, so you got involved on boards, working with other people on committees, having to deal with budgets, having to do board meetings, make sure everything was minuted, so everything was what was discussed was agreed upon, and people knew what the actions were. You have to do your risk assessments, which is also very important to get agreement from the university or college to run the events and obviously keep an eye on your budget so that you don't spend it all straight away. But in particular, you knew obviously as a student that you had to balance both your passion and interest, as well as I guess you can say the governance and organizational side of the society. And also moves and complements is also the same when it goes to the student union because similarly, you obviously have your role there to try and represent the views of the students and advocate for them. Or even if you're not at that senior level as a student officer, but most universities will have their equivalent of a student council or a meeting for their student body to be involved in. And again, that's its own governance level too. And there too are very important in terms of having the voices and their views heard. So I think when we're thinking of diversity on board, it's not just waiting until you see the individual's LinkedIn profile and you see them apply through board match. It's also considered that can we see them already being involved and active at university or even at community level? Are they already active there? And if they're already starting to get that, let's say, a bit of experience at board level, okay, is there a way now we can get them interested? You may not have a position ready for that, and they may not be ready for it because, again, they're students, and obviously they probably have other careers or areas that they want to focus on before they might think about dedicate their time to maybe charity or voluntary sector. But nonetheless, if you already have their interest peaked, you can hopefully be, and this goes even for those who you try to engage at an early stage as well. I'm sure my other speakers will speak about is that even if you get other people involved, you have to support them and mentor them and provide them all the training and information they need to be able to fill their role. So just as important if you do look to going out to universities and colleges and to younger people to potentially be interested in joining boards or your board at maybe a later stage is then can you guide them through that process and support them along the way so that when they feel ready, and I think there's also importance that you may feel like you're probably ready to take them on, but they also need to be feeling ready. And I'm sure I know the case of many boards, and you probably come across the whole topic of psychological safety, in particular for many people and for anyone joining the board, they have to feel that level of psychological safety too. So they also have to feel confident in that, their voice will be heard, that they won't be tokenistic, that just because they're going to be probably the youngest people in the room, that they will have their voices heard, and they'll have support there and guidance to be able to obviously add value and bring to the board itself. Unfortunately, I guess I built that experience by being involved in the students' union, so I wasn't too afraid of first when we started Black and Irish to be able to embark on that journey. But I still then recognized that there's still a lot that I needed to learn because though my board experience and I had that experience, it was very limited within the student union sector. But obviously going to Black and Irish is a more of a societal and a bigger wise. So that's where the opportunity to be involved with IDEA came about. And similar to Juliet, I did the Future Board Leaders program. More also to enlighten myself, though I did study law and I have a law background, but obviously I still have very limited understanding of obviously the full charity sector itself. Obviously, I understand Companies Act and Companies Law. So I still want to understand and learn more about the charity sector and how, charities regulation operates and works. So again, that I could learn and apply that to Black and Irish. So again, it looked like a perfect fit. Still, and that's why I'm grateful to have been able to join IDEA, both the areas that they focus on around global citizen education and injustice and equality, but also in terms of the stage we're at as a charity, just over 20 years old now. That I could still learn a lot and being involved now as company sector, I get a lot of great opportunity to be involved at board level. We've just done a new strategy last year. Obviously, a lot of change in terms of board level and staffing level. Now, in the moment, going through obviously the usual charities governance manual, redoing risk assessments, all those kind of things. So I'm really learning on the job, and that's giving me a lot of exposure, a lot of experience that I'm getting able to apply to it. So again, this is something that you could hopefully showcase to potential new members is that you're going to give them a safe space for them to share their experience, but giving them an opportunity also, if this is an area that they're passionate about, that they can really get involved in, maybe you on your subcommittee level, or driving one of your policies or one of your strategy areas, not just by having them in the room or on a seat at the table, is actually can maybe also be the driver or some of your initiatives. But I think, yeah, sometimes for many charities, they just not say assume, but I think that in order to try and diversify, you just start to look at LinkedIn profiles and board match and different other areas, which also are great. And I'm sure my speaker will share some other areas they can look at. But there's also other ways in terms of starting up when they're in university or college because they're ready to, I guess, the next generation, they're the future, they're the most passionate, they're the most engaged. So why not pique their interest now for them to join your board or in the future? So they're just my initial thoughts. And yeah, welcome more conversation on that later on.
Thanks very much for that, Pierre. And I think really insightful just in terms of how we can kind of broaden out our own kind of network on this and look into some of these areas. I'll next go to you, Hamayoun, and you've got a slightly different experience in that you're on an advisory board, but perhaps this is one of the formats or approaches that we could look at, and perhaps other organizations could look at. So I'd be curious to hear your experience of that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, perfect. So, yeah, as you just mentioned, I'm part of the Irish Refugee Advisory Board at the moment. But then having said that, I've been part of different other organizations as well, part of the board. It's been, as a refugee for myself, it's been a very big privilege, to come to Ireland and be part of big organization, and especially like the Irish Refugee Advisory Board, which was established by the UNHCR. And I think this board was established back in 2022, like you mentioned, but we have had a big influence in terms of policy changes in terms of conducting various consultations with the migrant communities around Ireland. And somehow we have been the bridge between the migrant communities and the UNHCR and the government. Since its establishment, the board has tried to diversify, as much as they could, but so far we have kind of stayed with the main refugee-producing countries like Afghanistan, Syria, Somalia, Ukraine, and a few other countries. But then we kind of thought that we should stick to a maximum of 7 to 9 countries at this stage. But then one of the eligibility criteria was that, anybody getting a chance to go on the board of the Irish Refugee Advisory Board, they should have a very, very big connection in the community, that they should be voiced not only to their own country and refugees from their own country, but they should have a voice from diverse backgrounds. And like people like myself, since 2016, I've been involved with the Places of Sanctuary Ireland, Schools of Sanctuary, Universities of Sanctuary. I have had the privilege of working with migrants from all over the world. So I'm part of like tens of WhatsApp group and other platforms that we exchange information, opportunities, trainings, and run trainings and workshops for refugees and migrants from different parts of the world. So this is the kind of people that was encouraged and recruited in the Irish Refugee Advisory Board. And we also, the other criteria was that people should have different kind of skill set. Somebody expert in dealing with media, public speaking, somebody who was good in communications, with IT skills, because a lot of the work we do is also to do advocacy and campaign around the issues, needs, and challenges of refugees. And then that means that, somebody needs to go on to RTE or, other media platforms to talk about issues and challenges, or even visit the House of Oireachtas, the Irish Parliament, and other places to be a voice for refugees. I've had personally had a few occasions, a few opportunities where, not only through the Irish Refugee Advisory Board, but through other organizations as well, to go to the Irish Parliament and talk about the challenges and do advocacy. But then most importantly, I've been part of the strategy group for a number of organizations. And again, this is a very big word, being part of strategy. And I think like I worked for Concern Worldwide nearly 15 years in Afghanistan. I was head of the livelihood program, head of the education program. And I think sometimes I reflect to myself that imagine if I was a board member of Concern Worldwide now, and I would inform their policies, and so much that I can share about Afghanistan. And I think the cultural insight is so important. So for refugee communities and people in diaspora, it's not important that they only should give back to the community here, but they should also think of the people abroad and in other countries, in their country of origins. So that's what I'm doing. Like at the moment, I'm working with the local authorities as integration support worker. But my mind is not only in Wexford. My mind is around the world. I'm thinking of peace, safety, community, and especially somebody who have suffered from war, from violence, from persecution. I have a better feeling, and I think that I have more ideas that, how the lives could be changed. Say, for instance, in Afghanistan, back home. And I think it's really important, first of all, if you were asking me, why would you encourage organizations to have board members from diaspora, from refugee and migrant background. I would say, number one, you're changing someone's lives. You're giving them confidence. You're building their experience. You're providing an opportunity for them to network with leaders in the society, leaders around the world. So that's number one, very personal benefit. And that empowerment element is so crucial for anybody seeking sanctuary, seeking safety and refuge, or being a migrant in Ireland. And number two, I think it's building trust. It's a mutual trust that, by diversifying people from other part of the world, other religion, races, you're somehow saying that you're adaptable, you're flexible, you're welcoming, you're compassionate towards everybody, and you value everybody's presence in your organization, and so your work and strategies will be informed by that diverse background. And I think then professionally, of course, it's a massive thing. It brings a lot of opportunities for the person here as well. And then also for those stakeholders or beneficiaries of your work abroad. Imagine if they heard that somebody from Syria or somebody from Nigeria, somebody from Congo was on the board of that organization working specifically in that country. And I think they would feel included. This is the key principle of community development, which is participation, which is inclusion, sustainability. And I think how your policies are informed is based on these values. And getting somebody from a specific country is an advantage, a great advantage. And I can see that in the Irish Refugee Advisory Board. We're making the life much easier for the UNHCR Ireland. We come together, we give them a lot of advice, we do a lot of advocacy. We're representing the migrants, and there are kind of a lot of opportunities. And I know getting board members for the international organizations sometimes could be very political as well. They want to get somebody who is influential from a bank, from very massive civil society organization, from a civil service section. But I think this is also another opportunity, refugees, migrants. This is a great potential. Just explore it. And that opportunity is untapped. They can bring a lot of wisdom to your organization. If you don't want to include them in your board, at least think of doing something at advisory role level. Right. That's maybe the beginning of getting somebody into your doorstep. Thank you so much. I look forward to more questions if there are any more questions.
Thank you so much, Hameen. I have lots of things to add to that, but I'll before I go into that, I might hand over to Juliette as well. So Juliette, you're very welcome, and if you would like to share some of your perspectives before we go on to the discussion. Thanks.
Thank you, Jen, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm really delighted to be part of this conversations on building inclusive boards in Ireland charity sector. The two gentlemen that spoke before me, I think they have covered so much that I would like also to touch on. But for a start, for me, maybe I would say the way I understand the word diversity for me, to me, is the word isn't just a buzzword. Yeah. So for me, it's about making sure that our boards really reflect the real Ireland that we all love and serve. You know, the community, the voices of the people, the lived experience we all see every day. I would like to share my personal journey to be a board member. So for me, it started 2 years ago, and this is it was through the Board Match Future Board Leader program. To be honest, when I first heard about the program, I was curious, but also unsure, because I didn't really see myself as someone who could sit on a board, you know. to me, boardrooms were like, they seemed far away from the reality I knew. It it represented like places where people had decades of experience or long established networks. So I I did apply anyway, um, out of curiosity and out of courage, and I was selected, and it has been one of the best decisions I ever made career-wise, but also in personal development. Um, the program taught me a lot of stuff, including what good governance meant, um, compliance when it comes to charity, and there's responsibility that come with serving on a board. But I think the really transformation for me was my perspective shifted. So when I came to now see what leadership meant, um, it has it has a total different meaning to me right now. It's not just about seniority, but to me, leadership, I came to realize that leadership is about perspective and lived experience. Um, and that was a huge change for me. So as a migrant person, as a mother, as a community builder, I saw how my story and my journey could be valuable at a board. The program also gave me knowledge and confidence to air out my opinion. And at a large, I would say the community that I found there. So I met with a lot of other people who were coming from all sort of lives, like all sort of life, and being part of that community was very empowering. We are all there, unsure, but ready to learn and ready to share our experience. So to me, it was really empowering to see that different people have that willingness to learn and engage. And why did I go for VSI? Why that? So to me, I joined VSI board after completion the program, and for me, it was a good fit because it was an organization that values international solidarity. It values volunteering. It values peace and community engagement, and it really aligned with what I deeply believe in. I believe that really change, when you want to experience the real community change or society change, it starts with people coming together across boundaries and working upon one goal. So that's what made me choose VSI. And what perspective do I think I'm bringing to VSI board? So I think for me it will be more of a lived experience. The prior speakers spoke about this. It's really empowering to give voice to the voiceless, if I like, for the lack of better words. It's really empowering to give people a chance to showcase their potential. So the program offered me that, and VSI taking me into board also have shown that how powerful it is for charities to include the voices which, if with no such opportunity, they will never be heard. And why is it important to have such voices? I'll go back to what the former speakers were speaking about. It's apart from being empowering on a personal level, it brings relevance to them. It brings relevance to the works of the organization. It also brings new voices, new energy, new ideas, because when you involve people who are at the ground, they have lived experience. They can contribute. They can contribute to the picture goal because they have actually lived the reality. So that's the second one. So it's relevance, it is trust, it is empowering. I would say some of the challenges maybe that I'm seeing, I've observed with a little time and here it's more of how the recruitment is done. I feel like if you look on how and where charity recruit is still an informal way of recruitment. So they kind of go to their same networks. The recruitment it's not broadened. So I would say if we broaden the recruitment, like we advertise more, we break from the formal from the informal networks that we have and expand it, go to social medias, go to youth clubs, work with organizations like a board match, work with youth organizations or the migrant communities. I think if we broaden our networks in terms of recruitment, that could really serve the purpose. Another thing will be more of I see another challenge is more of the confidence gap that it is when it comes to trustee. If I take myself for instance, it was through a push and also a bit of courage that I was like, I can do this. But for most people, when you see the searching of boards, adverts, the words are just so professional. Like you wouldn't feel like your lived experience will matter. You feel like you need to be a lawyer, an accountant, or someone who has a massive experience on leadership position to be on a board. So if we use languages that are more relevant to people and people reframing that perception, that reframing the whole notion that lived experience can also be is also a form of leadership that can I think that can bring about a good response to trust it, to be confident enough to join boards. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that, Juliet. No, it was really valuable to get your insights there. And I think what's universal, I think, amongst all of you in your contributions is, I suppose, the need for charities, both international and even domestic charities, to think a bit wider and broader in terms of where they are recruiting new trustees from. That if you keep on looking in the same places, you'll get the same, I suppose, cohorts of people who are applying for your board. That there are different avenues that we need to engage with and explore in order to actually be able to garner, people with lived experience, people with different perspectives, and see what we can bring back to our own boards as well. I'd like